tavakatamritam taptajivanam kavipiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhunirantiye Bhurida Janaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poets, seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, friends. We are continuing with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. For those that are following along, we are on page 183, near the bottom of the page. So the Master is talking to Mr. Chaudhry, who has many university degrees and a government job. And Ramakrishna has been telling him that God cannot be realized through scholarship. So Mr. Chaudhry is now asking a question. He asked, well, how can one see God then? And Ramakrishna has given him previously we read, has given him a description of how one can see God. But ultimately it rests on that one should have passionate attachment and love for God. So now Mr. Chaudhry is asking, Sir, is it not possible to have the vision of God without the help of a guru? Now here he's talking about a human guru, but Ramakrishna says, Satchidananda himself is the guru. Here it's guru with capital G. So Satchidananda himself is the guru. So we understand Satchidananda to be knowledge, existence, and bliss absolute. But Satchidananda is also a name given to Brahman, that absolute aspect of God. So Satchidananda himself is the guru. So in other words, Brahman's the guru. God is the guru. This doesn't mean that the human guru is insignificant, but now he's given a description from a tantric practice. He says, at the end of Shava Sadhana, which is a tantric discipline involving practicing meditation on a dead corpse. So now he says, at the end of the Shava Sadhana, just when the vision of the Ishta is about to take place, Ishta meaning the chosen ideal of the spiritual aspirant, the guru appears before the aspirant and says to him, behold, there is your Ishta. And saying this, the guru merges into the Ishta. And then Ramakrishna says, he who is the guru is also the Ishta. The guru is the thread that leads to God. So here he is saying that the guru is the thread. He helps the spiritual aspirant to realize God, or for the aspirant to realize his chosen ideal, which the guru has already given him the mantra to help him realize, and has given him all kinds of spiritual instruction and help to help him realize his spiritual ideal. And part of that was this practice to sit in meditation on the corpse of a dead body. That is a tantric practice. Whether it's still conducted today, who knows? I don't know. But there are going to be various practices that a guru will give specific to a spiritual aspirant. And in this case, this practice was suitable for this aspirant. So now the aspirant has sincerely practiced japa meditation and is about to experience the culmination of all that practice. But before that, the Guru appears before him because he's partly meditating also on the Guru. But now the Guru says this is your Ishta. Confirmation that he's not going to have an hallucination, but he will have an actual experience of his chosen ideal. And at that point, the Guru merges into the chosen ideal. You could also say that the chosen ideal has absorbed the Guru. And then that Ishta is now considered the Guru. So God becomes the Guru. So this human Guru forms a thread. So how does that happen? Well, the human Guru is has led a pure life, has gone through all the spiritual practices, has come across the obstacles, has had successes. When his disciple comes across these obstacles, he is able to help him through those obstacles and inspire him that, okay, you should be able to soon expect to have this kind of experience, and so forth. These are the signposts along the way. So this is no different than you having a teacher, an accomplished teacher. You're trying to play the piano, you're having difficulty in coordinating your hands and reading the music and all kinds of things going on. You're going to get tips and suggestions from your teacher. So also a qualified guru can help you through your spiritual practices and lead you along like a thread to the goal. So just as, for example, there's a story of a spider climbing up a wall to reach a princess at the top of the turret. So the prince is down at the bottom, and he doesn't, in this tall turret, but how to get a rope up there? Well, he directs the spider, attaches a thread to that spider. The spider climbs up to the top because he can't bear the weight of a rope. Then the princess will hold onto the thread, and then he'll tie a thicker rope, a rope thicker than a thread, but not perhaps a heavy enough rope. And then the princess will pull up the thread with a thicker rope that can actually withstand the weight of the prince to climb up the turret, and so forth until you have a steady enough rope. So also in spiritual practice, you start out with japa, just like a thread. That will lead to a deeper kind of meditation that will require more discipline. But you need to build up the endurance to be able to withstand those practices and the results of those practices. So as your meditation becomes deeper and deeper, and your experience becomes more intense, and you develop the body and the mind that can withstand those reactions. When you have that strength, then you basically have a stronger rope holding on to God. It's no longer just a fragile thread. The Guru helps you do that. And that will establish your connection to God. And that will either be an increase in one's love, one's devotion, the ability to direct one's mind toward God, regardless of what kinds of distractions can come in. The Gurus help you through that whole process. And that strengthens that thread, that bond between the Guru and the disciple. And then to the point where finally the Guru says, this is your Ishta. And then merges into it. At that point, you have realized your chosen ideal. So this is, so now although Mr. Chaudhary has said, does one need a guru? Does one need a human guru? He's implying. And Ramakrishna is indirectly saying, yes, it would be helpful. There are some that may not require a human guru, but they would be what you would call the prodigies of spiritual life, the divine incarnations. Even Ramakrishna's direct disciples, as accomplished as they were, needed Ramakrishna. So for most of us, we will need a guru, a human guru, to help us on that path. And now he says to Ram and the other devotees in the room, if you asked me which form of God you should meditate upon, I should say, fix your attention on that form which appeals to you most. But know for certain that all forms are the forms of one God alone. In Hinduism, although we say God is one, but we see 3 million different gods and goddesses. So any form that you wish to worship, that you have an affinity for, a love for, an attraction for, that can be your chosen ideal. Now, as an example, you might have a mother and a child, newborn child. This young child is going to occupy all of that mother's time, and she will say things like, I have no time for spiritual practice. The baby is crying day and night. She needs to go give it attention. Tries to understand what the cries mean, tries to interpret it, goes on the internet, reads how to take care of this child, goes to his mother-in-law, her mother, grandmother, to get some help and some advice. But she realizes that she has no time for herself. So Ramakrishna would say something like, well, look upon that child as God. Although that child is a worldly object, it's not what you would call a deity, but Ramakrishna would say something like, well, look on that child as baby Krishna, a divine child. Take care of that child as a divine child. That divine child will need to be fed, need to be bathed, need the diapers changed, but will also need to be disciplined and raised and taught moral and ethical disciplines, how to survive in society, how to become independent, how to be a worthwhile citizen, or a dutiful citizen, but all the time thinking that you are raising baby Krishna. So if that mother has some affinity or some love for Krishna, then think of that baby as baby Krishna. And then as that baby grows up and becomes a young mischievous child that needs some discipline, well, then you'll have to provide appropriate discipline. So although you're spiritualizing now your everyday life, so maybe you don't have time to sit down for prayer or meditation, but your whole day is consumed by thinking of your child as a child of God. And thereby, you are becoming benefited because you are thinking of God 24/7. So, when Ramakrishna says, fix your mind or fix your attention on that form which appeals to you most. But know for certain that all forms are the forms of one God alone. So although we have so many different deities and so forth, there can be much contention, whether you worship God as Vishnu, as Shiva, Mother Kali, Divine Mother Durga. There can be conflict amongst devotees, but there's no conflict between the gods over that, because it's one God, but different aspects of that one God. Just as a person, as that particular mother, she might be the mother, but she's also the child's teacher. She's also, she could be, when that child goes to school, she might actually be a school teacher. She may actually be, or she may be the president of a company, but that will be her aspect. That aspect will differ varying on how different people relate to her. But to the child, that will always be that child's mother. And to somebody else, that might be she might be their boss. So different aspects, but still the same person, just like the different aspects of God relate to the one and only God. So here he's saying the different forms, but God also can be formless. So one should not even be one should realize that God could have form and be formless, and you choose what form of God appeals to you the most. Then he continues, but know for certain that all forms are the forms of one God alone. Never harbor malice toward anyone. Shiva, Kali, and Hari are but different forms of that one. He is blessed indeed who has known all as one. And then from a song, outwardly he appears as Shiva's devotee, but in his heart he worships Kali, the blissful mother, and with his tongue he chants aloud Lord Hari's name. So now Ramakrishna continues. He says, the body does not endure without a trace of lust, anger, and the like. One should try to reduce them to a minimum. Well, he's talking about the 6 passions here. So we've got lust, greed. We also have anger, delusion, pride, and jealousy. So the body does not endure without a trace of all these passions. Why? All these passions have created a sense of attachment to this world. Without this attachment to this world, there's no need for us to be in this world. We're here because we have some attachment to it. Whether it's, and any one of these passions might be more dominant than the other, but it is a trace of these attachments, even just a desire to realize God in this life, or perhaps we could be jealous about, oh, this devotee seems we have better success than me. Well, that keeps me in this world. I better try harder. So the idea is you can't just deny all these passions, but you can sublimate them, direct them toward God. Be greedy about God. Be passionate about your spiritual practice toward God. Even increase your lustfulness, not for the world, but for God. Be angry at God for not revealing himself to you. No need to be angry about all the people of the world or at humanity. Be angry that be angry at yourself for not putting all your effort into your spiritual practices. Be angry at God for not revealing himself to you. So all these passions, direct them toward God. That's the best that we can do as spiritual aspirants in the world. And when we have directed all our passion toward God and we have no more passion to this world, then we have no need. We won't be in this world. Looking at Kedar, the master said, he is very nice. He accepts both the absolute and the relative. He believes in Brahman, but he also accepts the gods and divine incarnations in human form. So Kedar has love for God in all his forms, but also in his formless aspect. So he's just pointing this out. Kedar may even be somewhat embarrassed and feel a little humility there that he's been singled out here, but that humility will protect him from, oh, I'm great. I have love for all the gods and goddesses, and Thakur Ramakrishna has recognized that. So that should give me a sense of pride. But no, Kedar is more humble than that. But we may not be. And that is our practice, that practice of humility. Now, he's looking at, In Kedar's opinion, Sri Ramakrishna was such an incarnation. In other words, in Kedar's opinion, this is M is saying this, so M has known Kedar for some time now and has recognized that in Kedar's opinion, Ramakrishna was such an incarnation with form, and he also has a formless aspect. So you would say that he is quite an evolved spiritual aspirant. Now, looking at Nitya Gopal, the master said to the devotees, he is in a lofty mood. And now addressing Nitya Gopal, don't go there too often. You may go once in a while. She may be a devotee, but she is a woman too. Therefore, I warn you. So the topic is changing at this point. There's a woman devotee that also comes, a devotee of Ramakrishna, and Nitya Gopal goes there sometimes because she invites him over. Both are devotees. They talk about God and so forth. But Sri Ramakrishna is kind of warning him that she may be a devotee, but she is a woman too. So he might have thoughts of lustfulness, and she might of him. So he's warning her. He is warning him. And now he says, the sannyasi must observe very strict discipline. He must not look even at the picture of a woman. But this rule doesn't apply to householders. An aspirant should not associate with a woman even though she is very much devoted to God. So when Sri Ramakrishna is speaking to his women devotees, he would say the opposite. He would say, an aspirant should not associate with a man even though he may very much be devoted to God. We're talking about spiritual aspirants that want to realize God, and they need protection. Their own passions will be there. They may not be able to successfully direct their lustfulness toward God, but sometimes they might think, well, this is a devotee of God, and perhaps we'll get along. But Sri Ramakrishna is still warning them that you need to be careful. But now he's even more strict with sannyasi, because he says, but this rule doesn't apply to householders. An aspirant, a sannyasi, even though he may have subdued his passions, should follow this discipline to set an example to householders. So he's warning all his sannyasi potential monks, other sannyasis, that they have to go the extra mile. So they have to they have to be able to show that it is possible to householders to subdue the passions. They have to set the example that, okay, don't associate with the opposite sex. The nuns would be told the same thing. Don't associate with the opposite sex. So don't take this as Sri Ramakrishna saying this to women, about women. You go to Sardamat and they will say the same thing about men to their women devotees. So worldly people learn renunciation by seeing the complete renunciation of a monk or a nun. Otherwise, they sink more and more. A sannyasi is a world teacher. And perhaps by watching that more extreme sense of renunciation, they will learn that it is humanly possible to develop love of God and pray for His grace to overcome all these obstacles that can occur in spiritual life. So, the householders, they come to the Vedanta societies, they meet the monks, and we are supposed to be like the extreme practitioners of the spiritual disciplines so that you won't give up on your spiritual practices. You'll realize, no, it is possible to realize God. It is possible to control your anger. You might be out in the world working and somebody has said something to you and it's gotten you all frustrated and angry. How do you manage that? Some will either be so flustered they can't continue for the rest of the day. Others will hold a grudge and try to plan some kind of revenge or something. But how to control that? And they will come here to Vedanta Society or try to speak to someone who has overcome some of those baser passions. So they will come for advice or for examples. So also with all the other passions. Not with the idea of being able to give up those passions, but how to direct them, how to give them a spiritual direction. So because you're not going to be able to give them up. That is basically ingrained in human beings, whether you're a monk or whether you are a householder. That is what, like he has said, that those passions have brought us to this world. Now we have to turn them around from worldly reactions and directions and give it a spiritual bent. How to do that, and that is where all the spiritual practices come from, and that's where the advantage of having a human guru, someone that you can ask these questions to. But what happens if you have a human guru and you can't ask them any questions? They may not be present there. Well, then there will be other monks who have gone through that also. You can ask them questions. But also one can sincere devotion, love, pray to their human guru, who may not be present, might be in another country. So, and perhaps you'll get some inspiration, some insight from them. Perhaps with such sincerity, you'll be able to dream about them or get some instruction from them, either through a dream or some inspirational reading or perhaps a vision. So you may not be able to experience the highest, but you might experience at least the vision of your own guru to help you in your spiritual path. So that marks the end of his day here, and I will stop there for now. And if you have any questions, otherwise, I will read some announcements. Tomorrow evening, Swami Brahmatmananda, who resides at our retreat property, will give an online class on the Gospel of the Holy Mother. This will be done via Google Meet. The link will be in the email that you received or on our website. That will be at 7 p.m. And on Friday at 7 p.m., Swami Satyamananda will continue with his class on self-knowledge, the Atmabodha. It'll be a study class. It's the 15th class in the series so far. That will be here in Seattle at 7 p.m. The weekend following this weekend, we will have a retreat given by two nuns that will be visiting us. But we need to prepare the retreat for their arrival. There will be things to do, and that will take place this Saturday. It'll be a special Karma Yoga Day. You are all invited, whoever is able to go out there, to help set up tents, do some cleaning, whatever is needed to prepare for the following weekend for when they arrive. So that will be going from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. this Saturday. On Sunday, Swami Satyamananda will be giving a talk on the self and its shadow. There will also be a Sunday school for the children, so you can leave your children there 10 minutes prior to the talk. And that afternoon at 4 p.m., Raka will be leading a devotional singing. All the songs that are in our songbook that we never get to during Ram Nam, or perhaps you need to learn some of the Ram Nam songs. They will be singing those songs on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. It'll go on for about an hour to 2 hours. So everybody is welcome, whoever wants to sing along. So thank you very much for attending. No questions online. If anybody has questions, we can address them after the talk. I'll conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Tritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesamityam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace.